Feel the speed, the thrill, high octane drama can't get our fill. Engines roaring loud, heartbeats on the rise. On NFR, see the sparks in our eyes. Racing through the night, chasing every turn. On NFR, adrenaline we burn. Pit stops and fast cars, it's a wild ride. NFR, in our veins we can't hide. NFR, feel the rush, feel the speed. Formula One dreams, we take the lead. On NFR, we're flying high. Under the lights, we touch the sky. Yeah. Every lap a story, every driver's dream. On NFR, racing's the supreme. Checkered flags waving, champions arise. NFR brings the glory to our eyes. NFR, where the legends are born. Speeding past the limits, engines reborn. In the fast lane, every second counts. NFR, the thrill always mounts. NFR, feel the rush, feel the speed. Formula One dreams, we take the lead. On NFR, we're flying high. Under the lights, we touch the sky. NFR with the rush, feel the speed. Formula One dreams, we take the lead. On NFR's lane, every second counts. NFR, the thrill always mounts. NFR, feel the rush, feel the speed. Formula One dreams, we take the lead. On NFR, we're flying high. Under the lights, we touch the sky. You move to NFR, feel the speed. Engines roar so loud, speed demons crowd. Heartbeats race so wild, lions on the field unfiled. DRS takes the lead, NFR brings the speed. Thursday nights with the crew, every race like something new. Engines roar, lights flash, speeding through in a dash. Drivers with nerves of steel, thrills you can't conceal. Thursday nights rev high, 7:30 watch time fly. DRS lead on screen, NFR taking the scene. Fast lane fever, feel the thrill. Crowds are cheering, can't sit still. Race is tight, the drama real. On NFR, the magic's real. Rubber burns on the track, pressure's on, no turning back. Tensions rise with every lap, gotta win, no room for gap. DRS, battle fierce, through the chaos and the gears. Thursday night, the place to be. Tune to NFR and see. Fast turn the gears. Thursday night, the place to be. Tune to NFRNC. Fast lane fever, feel the thrill. Crowds are cheering, can't sit still. The race is tight, the drama real. On NFR, the magic's real. The magic's real. On magic's real. The magic's real. NFR, it's time to go. Feel the speed, let it flow. Racing hearts, watch them glow. Turn it up, start the show. NFR, feel the heat. Fast and fierce, never beats. Engines roar, can't stay off seats. Catch the thrill, it's so sweet. NFR, NFR. Drama high, stars afar. Round the track like a shooting star. Feel the rush, NFR. Lap by lap, watch them spin. Victory's close, who will win? In our heads, the engine's din. NFR, let's begin. NFR, lights are green. Zooming fast, slick machine. Every twist, every scene. Catch the action on your screen. NFR, NFR, yeah. Drama high, stars afar. Round the track like a shooting star. Feel the rush, NFR. Lap by lap, watch them spin. Victory's close, who will win? In our heads, the engine's din. NFR, let's begin.
Engines scream down the track. Future speeds won't look back. Tires burn, hearts attack. 2024 ain't slack. Mountains and metal fly by. Crimson flags touch the sky. Champions reign, gonna die. Gripping the wheel we try. Just drive the speeds alive. Just drive in the fire we dive. Just drive the thrill, survive. Just drive. Grit and sweat fuel the race. Nerves of steel, ain't no grace. Monaco to endless chase. Life and death embrace. Mountains of metal fly by. Crimson flags touch the sky. Champions reign, gonna die. Gripping the wheel we try. Just drive the speeds alive. Just drive in the fire we dive. Just drive the thrill, survive. Just drive. Grit and sweat fuel the race. Nerves of steel, ain't no grace. Monaco to Just drive the speeds of life. Just drive in the fire we dive. Just drive the thrill, survive. Just drive. Just drive. Just drive. Just drive. Just drive. Just drive. Turn on the screen, it's NFR. Feel the rush like a shooting star. The engines roar, the tires scream. Fast as lightning, it's the dream. Speed and drama, every turn on NFR. The rubber burns. Feel the thrill of every bend, where the champions transcend. Feel the power at NFR. Burning tracks, driving far. Where the races never end. NFR, only friend. Fernando calls the play on NFR. Every race day, commentary sharp and loud, hyping up the roaring crowd. Feel the power at NFR. Burning tracks, driving far. Where the races never end. NFR, only friend. Now Fernando calls the play on NFR at race day. Commentary sharp and loud, hyping up the roaring crowd. Feel the power at NFR. Burning tracks, driving far. Where the races never end. NFR, only friend. Death Queen, the top support is seen. In the crowd where speed is keen. NFR, the place to be. Join the race, watch and see.
Feel the speed, the thrill, high octane drama can get.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome back. Welcome back to NFR on a Thursday night with DRS. Of course, this is the finale of season 11. Championship is decided, as far as I understand it. Shane is 26 points ahead, so that means even if he retired from this race and Levy went on to win it with the fastest lap, we would then have equal championship points at the top of the table. Then I believe the rules go to who won the more races. I believe Shane is 3-1 at the moment. So we have a few drivers out on track already. 3 in fact. A lot of drivers still in the pits. Of course, a full qualifying session. So we're not going to see the quickest drivers going as quick as they can just yet. Going to have to wait a little longer for that. We're riding with Quibus in the Aston Martin, a team that's been making a lot of news lately. Of course, Aston Martin will be dropping the Mercedes engine in 2026 for a Honda. And they also have a certain Red Bull designer signing up. Arnaud already on his first quick lap. Of course, the Silverstone circuit, one of the circuits that was on the original F1 calendar in 1950. Of course, F1, well, you can't call it F1, but you can call it Grand Prix racing. Grand Prix racing did exist before 1950. 1950 was when it formally became a championship as we sort of know it today. I say sort of because I think it was in the second or third year of F1. We got the record for the oldest man ever to win a Formula 1 race, and it's one I don't even think Fernando will beat. I believe it was the age of 52. No times on our screens just yet. Ronald, formerly known as Boinkies, just letting us know possible rain in the race. Of course there's possible rain in the race. We're in Great Britain. If there wasn't rain in the race, that would be unrealistic. Can't say I've had that much time in London, but did spend a little bit of time in London, and all I can say is it was overcast the whole time. So if there is no rain, I say unrealistic. There's your first time. The 28-4 Dan Ritfeld, first to go over the line. Some of these guys will be pretty laid back. They'll know they're going through. They know what they're capable of. You might even see odd tyres. If I bring up the tyre screen, and you see some odd tyres. There's 3 drivers out there on medium tyres. We know that's not the fastest compound, so why would you be using it in qualifying? It's because they know they can get through. They've got that much of an advantage over the rest of the field, and they know they can just save that extra set of softs for the latter stages of qualifying when they might need them much more. This is Nick Kishan. This is Zero to Cool. 2 Williams drivers. Of course, Ferrari in this season has dominated the Drivers' Championship, winning it a while ago. As for the Drivers' Championship, I believe Shane will be the champion regardless. As I say, if Shane were to retire from the race and Lebby were to take the full house, 25 points plus the fastest lap, that would equalize the points. But then Shane would have won one more race. So as per my understanding, I think the championship is decided. The Constructors is definitely decided. Fantastic season from Ferrari, some dangerous teammates. This is get in there. No time from him just yet in the Alpine. A team that could soon drop the Renault engine. Which is quite ironic, because Alpine is Renault's sport division. So when your sport division drops your engine in favor for a Mercedes, that's Alpine have got a bit of work to do. Fortunately, in the virtual world, all these cars are set to equal. Of course, if they weren't set to equal, we'd have a little bit of a difficult time filling up the cars at the back of the field. No one would want to drive them. Aston Martin to the top of the field, that's Quirbus. He's on a set of soft tyres, but as you can see there next to the tyres, he's done multiple laps. You'll see when a driver is absolutely pushing, they just do that one quick lap. When they stay out there for multiple laps, they're feeling out the circuit, using it as a little bit of a last minute practice session. Of course, nothing you can do to the setup at this stage. Drivers select their setup at the beginning of qualifying before they leave the garage. Now, if there's something you're not quite happy with, it's going to stay there for the remainder of your evening. Quirbus at the top of the table, he's in the pits. P2 and 3 are also in the pits. Here it's Poole in P4. Sits in the pits for now. Then another few drivers. Of course, everyone could retire from the session because we only have the 13 drivers, which means no one would be knocked out. But some drivers, I think, wouldn't maybe mind a little bit of extra track time. Good evening to Death Queen. To have you here on a Thursday. Don't always see you on a Thursday. Shane goes to the top of the table. That was on a set of softs. Makes Nick Gishin's time quite impressive. He's right up there with the leaders with a set of mediums. Good evening to Sublime. Nice to see some of yous coming in now. Stream started off very quiet. Getting some people here in the comment section. Welcome to Skull as well. Of course, this is the end of a Q1 that doesn't mean much. Of course, just the 13 drivers in the field. That's why you see almost everyone in the field. 12 of the 13 drivers have retired from the session. They're ready to go through to Q2. Stoffel, he hasn't set a lap and he wants to set one. So he's on an out lap. Wants to get a feel for the circuit before he needs to push in Q2. Of course, nothing was at stake in this session. But in Q2 there will be 3 cars dropping out. Only 10 in Q3. Sessions get shorter as we go. This one was 18 minutes, the next one will be 15, and the last one will be 12. Then we head off into our 50% distance race around Silverstone. Real iconic circuit. Just not one you'd think of for a season finale. We ride with Stoffel because there's absolutely no one else to ride with, so he's going to get all of the track time. If he doesn't like being on stream, well, apologies for the pressure. This is just an outlap. doing it on a set of medium tyres, so he is saving that extra set of softs. Surprised some of those drivers at all went out on the soft tyre. I think the whole field could have done this on mediums because no one was going to drop out. Some of the drivers still chose to use their soft compound. It's going to take me a while to get used to that name. I know exactly who it is, but Ronald. So used to calling him something else. This is Stoffel. He's just gone purple. I believe he has just gone purple. That was sector 1 purple for Stoffel. He's the only man out on track, so the purple can only be for that one man out on track. Stoffel going quick in the late stages of qualifying. Of course, don't read too much into these lap times. When there is no elimination at stake, I don't think anyone would show their cards just yet. Of course, Levy chose not to set a lap time at all. Of course, in years gone by in F1, if you had done that, you would not start the race. That was a rule. If you retired from qualifying, if you had a crash, sometimes you wouldn't see them the next day. But then F1 cars got the third car. That changed things up. If you had a big crash at the start of the race and a red flag, you could come back into the pits and there'd be an extra car there. And if you were a rich team, like I think there were 3 of them, Ferrari, Williams and McLaren, well, they had 2 T cars, 1 for each driver. Of course, that was eliminated due to bringing down costs and making it more fair for the small teams. Turns out it's quite expensive to have 3 or 4 cars on standby in the garage at all times. Stoffel out on track by himself. He did set that lap time at 1:31.8, good enough for P9. But like I say, don't read into these lap times because there's some big gaps in between some of these. Those were just sighter laps. And even Stoffel, he was quick in sector 1 and then the lap just dropped away. So I think no one wants to show their cards just yet. This is sort of resembles pre-season practice. Or pre-season testing rather. You'll see them go purple in a sector here and there, but then they never sew the lap together because they're trying not to show the other teams anything. So that is the end of Q1. As Stoffel comes into the pits, we'll be going straight through to Q2. 15-minute session. We will be losing 3 cars at the end of that session. And where are the results? No results. That's not good. Thought it was my capture card for a second, but I can see the timer, so no results to read. I don't think I've ever seen that. Game didn't give me results for Q1. Hopefully it gives me results for Q2. We are at the start of Q2. Looking down the very upgraded pit lane in Silverstone. In fact, it's not upgraded. That was a completely new build. It used to be in a very different part of the race circuit. Levy has retired from the session. I wonder if that's got something to do with some sort of quali ban, because that will eliminate him from Q3. Means just 2 other drivers will be at risk because Levy has already retired. You don't want to be one of those 2 cars. Start out in the front so you get the best opportunity. For Silverstone, a very wide open circuit, the field not too big. So we might get through this race pretty quickly. I don't think we'll see too much carnage, except somebody mentioned, I think it was Ronald that mentioned earlier on, there was a possibility of rain in the race. Shane, the second Ferrari, has also retired. So that means both Ferraris outside the top 10, they will be eliminated. Just 1 car will be eliminated from this session besides the 2 Ferraris. They did not set lap times, so maybe looking to give themselves a bit of a challenge in the final round. Of course, just because the Drivers' Championship is confirmed, there still are other positions up for grabs. Panda looks like he's got P3 cemented, but mathematically Wezo could still take that away from him. Dan Ritfeld P5, J-Boy P6, and then you can see all those close points from 58 down to 42. All of those positions could still change. So still lots to play for, even if you're lower down in the field. Any driver would prefer to be in P4 than P6, so everyone's going to be looking for every single point they can get. And of course we don't have a full lobby, so a lot of drivers in that championship list, they are missing. So I think that confirms Panda's P3 there. I think the only one who could catch him was Wezo, and Wezo does not appear to be here this evening. Seems like the top 3 in the championship have been confirmed. If I read my messages, I'd probably know all of this. No lap times yet from the drivers, but a lot of cars on out laps, a lot of cars already on quick laps. Get in there. Be going slowly. If that was a quick lap, but he was going slowly. Now, as wide as this track is, drivers tend to push the track limits. Maybe you get a circuit with a lot of this tarmac on the outside, drivers just get tempted to use that a little bit more. It can really cost you. Of course, invalidate the lap around qualifying, it's good for nothing. Coming to the pits, have to waste another set of tyres just to get a lap on the board. So the last thing you want to do is invalidate the first one. Technician just getting a tyre in the gravel, 0 to cool, left, then right, and over the line to start his quick lap. It's already taken a little bit out of that battery, down to 70% as he gets to turn 1. This is Fuster, Dan Ritfeld. Sets the first time of Q2. Not the first time, the top time of Q2. Grievous P2, Panda P3, Ronald P4. And we've got Orinoco's. Let's see what cars are missing here. Do we have any big brands missing? Is it just the one McLaren, just the one Red Bull, just the one RB? Teammates that actually showed up. I think it's just it's the Haas, the Ferraris and the Williams. And we're missing an Aston Martin as well. That other Aston Martin still very much in the race. He was high up the field in Q1, he's high up in the field in Q2. These guys are only going to show you everything they have in the next session, I assure you. There will be one driver somewhere in the lobby that's biting his nails, don't want to be that 11th driver, the one unlucky driver that's going to be eliminated from this session. Of course, the two Ferraris, they seem to have voluntarily retired at the beginning of the session. Zero to pull over the line for the quickest lap of the session so far. This is Secret in P4, Panda. Finishes P3 in the championship, I believe, for the Haas driver. Wouldn't Haas love that? Gishin over the line. Now you can see the lap times coming down. 27.4. It's a Williams front row so far. And with the two Ferraris eliminated, we might just get a Williams front row. Of course, still a lot to come from these drivers. I think there's still more in Purvis. I think there's still more in Panda and Dan Rietveld. Even Ronald down in P7. That's not his everything. Of course, if you watch this channel regularly, you'll know exactly who's quick and who's not. And when they're going around here pretending to be slow, it's not usually a very well kept secret. Nick Gishin out front, Zero to Cool in P2. Dan Rietveld, Kurbis, Panda, the only one out on track. Very quiet racetrack at this stage. I don't think anyone wants to go out there and do any unnecessary runs. If they're comfortable with their time, they're probably just going to stay in the pits. Of course, having extra sets of tires in that Q3 could prove vital, but it is the shortest qualifying of all, just the 12 minutes, so you're not going to get as many runs. Panda coming into the pits. Zero to Pool, the first of the cars to, besides the Ferraris, to retire out front. He's happy with the lap time. Nick Gishin, Stoffel, they're still in the session. Stoffel is out on track. He's gone P2. Breaks that Williams front row. Yes, everyone's in the pits, so we're going to watch Stoffel again, getting all the camera time. Said maybe he doesn't like it when we stream him. Well, that appears to be quite the opposite. Everyone in the pits, with the exception of Stoffel, getting there, has actually just come out on an out lap. So let's give some airtime to the Alpine team. Sponsored by BWT, formerly sponsor of, what's that, Racing Point, the old home of Sergio Perez. Now that's a team of many, many names. Can't even remember what it was before Force India, and then it became Racing Point, and now it's Aston Martin. Or should we call it Stroll F1? Stoffel has returned to the pits, so this is the only man out on track. Get in there. Of course, Renault have a very rich history in Formula One, lots and lots of championships, but interestingly enough, only 2 of those championships came as a manufacturer. All of those other championships came as an engine supplier to other teams. The only time they won a championship in their own manufacturer team were the 2 championships they won with Fernando Alonso back in 05 and 06. So the only time Renault has ever won a championship besides the Alonso era was as an engine, not as a car. Seems they can't put that whole package together. get in there. The reason he's out on track is he's the man in P11. He doesn't want to stay there. But look how close the time is, 29.121. That is for Fuster. He stays in the pits for now. Get in there, comes back into the pits. Stoffel has retired. See, now we might see him extend this qualifying session because he really just needs to find 200ths of a second to get himself into Q3. So it depends how badly he wants to get into Q3. He might come out again. Still have Secret, Ronald, Arnogos, Fuster, and get in there in the session. Do we have a car to look at? Yes, we do. Secret out on track, Arnogos out on track. One RB, one Red Bull. Both of these drivers missing their teammate this evening. Fuster, get in there. They remain in the pits. Those are the cars that are awfully close together. 129.121, 129.141. That's 200ths of a second between getting into Q3 and dropping out and watching in spectator mode, just like me. So surely get in there is going to have to come out again. Fuster's going to have to come out again and try and defend that lap. Just over 2 minutes remaining in the session, so if they're going to do it, they need to get on with it. Seems they're still both in the pits. Still both in the pits. This is Arnogos, this is Secret. Right on board. One of the most known sequence of corners on the F1 calendar. In fact, Kota even tried to replicate it. Well, they say the S's in Kota are a replica of Maggots and Beckett's, but I have to say I just don't think. Probably one of the only things I like about the Silverstone circuit is that particular sequence of corners. It just feels fantastic when you get it right. Secret improves his position, goes up rate 28.1. It's good enough for P5. I think that'll be safe for the session. But Arnogos 29.0, just to be safe. He's going out there looking for something a little better, but I think he's going to do so on used tyres. Arnogos has retired. Is he retired on track? I think he's retired on track. It may have been an incident. I think the drivers know they're not supposed to retire on track, so he just came out of the pits and immediately retired. So that must have been an incident. Yellow flag is waving. This is Levy. Levy, the man at risk, the only man at risk. Fuster, also very much at risk, in fact. Get in there, could improve, just really needs to find 200ths of a second to find an improvement. It's really not much of an improvement, it's just anything. Fuster has chosen to stay in the pits with that almost nothing of an advantage, so he could find himself on the wrong side of things, on the wrong side of the top 10. Secret has finished his session. Fuster has finished his session, and he did get up. He stayed in P10. This is Levy. He could still take that P10 away. It's the only one who could change the result here at this stage. Everything else looks pretty much set in stone. What more does he have? It comes down to sector 3. He doesn't peel off into the pits, so that suggests there is an improvement on the way. and any sort of improvement will probably be good enough because that gap is so small, goes over the line. Didn't see if there was an improvement because it cut away, but yes there was. He went up into P9 and that means Fuster eliminated from Q2. So there are your results. We didn't get results at the end of Q3, so Q1. So let's go through these quickly. It's Nick Gishin in P1, followed by Stoffel, then Zero to Pool, Dan Ritfeld, Secret, Quivers, Panda, Ronald, get in there, Arno Host, and then eliminated from the session Fuster and the two Ferraris retiring right at the beginning of the session. Thank you to Quivers. Always a pleasure doing the streams for DRS. Of course, close racing. The views do go down a little bit towards the end of the season. It's always one of the fastest leagues on the channel. Of course, this is the last race of season 11. When we do have further news on the future, season 12, when it's coming, we will let you know on the channel. Of course, first, we have to finish this season. In a season that's been dominated by a pair of Ferraris. There are no Ferraris here in Q3 for the final race of the season. Guess we're gonna watch them come through the field in the race. Hopefully we won't see too many incidents out on track. Like I say, quite a small field, not the tightest race circuit. And if you're gonna go off circuit, there's lots of runoff area. Silverstone has changed a lot. Of course, this used to, really, it was just a track in the middle of nowhere. Of course, Aston Martin's factory just across the road. When their new factory is completed next year, it will be the most sophisticated F1 factory in terms of facilities out of all of the teams. So Stroll really throwing his money into it. Purvis is not Lance Stroll, so he will get fired if he doesn't do well for Aston Martin. That's why he's out on track. He wants to finish off the season with a pole position, start from the front. Hey Shane, good to have you here. Oh, and we've got Purvis. That's not what you want to see. Well, he was in the comment section not so long ago, so maybe he's got the keyboard there, one hand on the wheel, one hand on the keyboard. Just lost momentum there, went to the grass. Not ideal because now he's going to start his quick lap and those tyres are still going to have a little bit of grass on them. Of course they'll clean up quite quickly. But they won't be exactly optimal. Heads off into turn 1. Using a lot of the curb, and then the car just getting slightly out of shape there on the exit, maybe a little bit too much curb. Of course, some of these curbs look really easy to ride, and then they just have a little bit of a lift on the end of them, can destabilize the car. Not exactly a sausage curb, but use too much of the curb can hurt you in certain cases. Welcome to Shane in the comment section. That's the Season 11 champion. Ferrari's putting themselves out of the top 10, letting everybody else get an opportunity to score points and shuffle their way through the championship. But I assure you they won't give them that same favour in the race. They will be coming through that field. They have the pace to do so. Shane did do the one lap in Q1. Levy did no laps throughout qualifying. So he's going to go into this race without any experience prior to the race. Lap times now starting to populate the screen. Panda currently P1, and as I say it, 0 to cool as I'm talking. And then Nick Gishin. Why am I even calling out these lap times? So it's a Williams front row so far. Nick Gishin, 0 to cool P2, Panda P3. I believe that's where Panda will also finish in the championship. Top 3 are confirmed as far as I know. Shane, Levy, then Panda. Of course, Wezo could have still stolen P3 from Panda, but he is not here tonight. There are still many positions lower down the field, only separated by 2 points, 4 points, all sorts of tiny little gaps. So you can still shuffle your way through the field, improve your position in the championship, make the season that little bit more worth it. So still lots to play for in the final round. Riding with 0 to cool. In fact, we're riding with Nick Gishin, one of the two Williams. Of course, James Vowles coming out and saying that Williams are targeting 2027 to get to the top of the field and challenge for races. I really hope that is the case. Would love to see Williams at the top of the field once again, once they were such a dominant team. I believe they took 5 constructors titles in the 90s. 5 out of 10, not bad. I believe it was 4 drivers titles and 5 constructors titles. And if you are wondering who built that dominant Williams in the 90s, well, it was a designer by the name of Adrian Newey. Of course, Adrian Newey wanted a small share in Williams. Frank Williams denied that, and he went off to McLaren. McLaren, ironically, went on to end the reign of Williams. So Adrian Newey went to a rival team and built a car that could beat them. So after McLaren went to Red Bull in 2006, I believe it was, they didn't start winning immediately. In fact, it was a bit of a disaster in the beginning because the junior team got their first win before they did. Took 4 years to get that first title for Red Bull. Hopefully for Aston Martin, Adrian Newey gets it right straight out the gate. Just over 3.5 minutes remain in the session. Still have Nick Gishin and 0 to cool out on track. Dan Rietveld on an outlap. No one on a quick lap as we speak. Nick Gishin is in fact in the pits. His teammate is on an outlap. Gap between the teammates half a second. That's the gap between the front row. Larger gap than we're used to at the front. There's a lot of drivers there in the 27s. It's just there Nick Gishin that's half a second ahead of the rest of the field. Of course, he'll know the Ferraris are still very much in this race. Even though they're not there on that timing sheet on the left-hand side, they will be in the race. They will be coming through the field. So if he's got this sort of pace, his job will be to start from pole position and get as far away from the field as he possibly can before those Ferraris get anywhere near him. Of course, that plan won't count for anything. If we get a safety car, if we get rain in the race, anything that can mix up their strategy. Of course, at the beginning of the race, you sit there and you decide, what am I going to do? What strategy am I going to go for? But any sort of event within the race could mean that entire strategy is useless. And sometimes the strategy is useless by lap 3. In fact, sometimes it's useless by turn 1. Welcome also to Kalen in the comment section. Good to have you. Yes, you're joining us just at the end of qualifying. We're about to head off into the main event, the race. That's what counts. Of course, qualifying is great, determines where you start in the race, but it's all about the race. That's where you get the points. You can have 12 pole positions in this 12-round season, but it doesn't count for points, doesn't count for anything, doesn't count towards the championship. It's all about the race. I wonder how that would affect the championship if qualifying had anything to do with points. Dan Rietveld went very wide there on the outside curve, held my breath for a second, thought the track would light up in red for an invalidated lap, but he got away with it. He must have been right on the edge of things. I'm sure he too was holding his breath, waiting for a invalidated lap to pop up on the top of his screen. It didn't happen, so he's going to get one more opportunity to go around. Currently a 27.8 in P6. How did I miss that? In fact, there's 2 Alpines in the field. Earlier on I said it was just the Ferraris, the Haas and the Williams that showed up with teammates, but in fact both Alpines are present. Orno's session is over for him. Checkered flag has fallen, everybody else is out on track. They'll get one final run. This is Panda in the Haas. Secret over the line, stays P4. Does Panda find an improvement? He does. Goes up into P2, 27.2. Takes 0 to cool by just a tenth. Dan Rietveld over the line, P6. Doesn't improve. This is Ronald. There is Quibus. Quibus currently in P8. Getting towards the end of his lap. Goes past the pit entry, which suggests there is an improvement into that final chicane. You've got to make sure you get it right so you get the optimal run onto this straight right here. Over the line, does improve up to P6. The only man out on track is Ronald, but he's come back to the pits, so no improvement on the cards for him. And that is your qualifying session for the final round of DRS Season 11. Now we just wait for the clock to tick down so we can get on with the business end of things. Nick Gishin, pole position for the final round. There are your results. Nick Gishin in P1. Panda got the lap in there right at the end to break up the Williams front row. Sirotpool in P3. Sigrid in P4. Then we got Stoffel P5, Urbis P6, Dan Redfeld P7, Ronald P8, get in there P9, and Arne Roos making up the top 10. And welcome back. There are no words. Who could have ever predicted rain in the United Kingdom? Was not sure if the drivers knew the rain would be there right at the start. Hopefully everybody did check their weather, otherwise they just had the shock of their lives. Drivers will get one opportunity to go around this track in the wet for the formation lap, get a feel for things. Not sure how wet it is. Let's just have a look what the drivers are using as for their tires. Everyone on a set of intermediates, so not full wet. That means it could stay like this to the end. It could get worse and they go to the blue tires, or it could dry up. And we'll have probably a more normal race. Of course, some of the drivers do a lot of practice in the rain. Some of them almost never practice in the rain, and it becomes very evident. Even drivers that are sometimes very close together in pace on a dry track don't always match up on a wet circuit. It's either something you like or you don't. Of course, the man everyone knows as the Rainmaster, Ayrton Senna, he was originally a terrible driver in the rain. So he basically had a friend who was a manager at a go-kart track, and he'd simply take the go-kart around for hundreds and hundreds of laps and tell his friend to switch the sprinklers on. Possible strategies: no stops or one stop. Of course, that would be in the event that this rain continues throughout. Of course, if it gets harder, they'll have to come in for softs. If it gets dry, they'll have to come in for slicks, and those possible pit stop strategies the game has just provided will be completely useless. What will the weather do in the next few minutes? We'll have to wait and see as things unravel. We're now just waiting for the 5 red lights. They'll come on one by one. Then there'll be a pause. Then they'll go off and we'll be underway. We have a DSQ at the rear of the field. That's Fuster. Got a terrible camera angle so we can't see him right now. Just waiting for... There we go. 5 red lights. When they go off, we'll be underway for the final race of season 11. It's a Williams versus a Haas, and another Williams in P3. Haas thought about it into turn 1, then just thought better of it, remembered the conditions, remembered it's only turn 1, The Haas coming back now strong at the Williams. They go side by side briefly, and then the Haas tucks in behind the Williams once more. Nick Gishin from Panda from 0 to cool. Quibus in P4. He's already made up 2 positions. Look who's in P5. It's Lebby. Lebby in P5 already. So many positions made up at the start of the race. Then Stoffel in P6. Dan Ritfeld P7. Secret P8. Got Ronald in P9. He's just made up a position on Shane. Those cars trading places. So one Ferrari going forwards. The other one in P10. Then we have Fuster in P11. Get in there in P12. Not the race start he would have wanted. And then Arno Goos at the rear of the field. Nick Gishin still out front. That gap just under half a second. So nothing in it for now. Panda still applying the pressure. 0 to cool right on the back of those two. So we have a trio out front. Then a bit of a gap down to Quibus. Just over a second. Quibus involved in a trio battle of his own. In fact, it's more than a trio. That's a whole string of cars. All the way down to P11, that's Fuster. Of course, no DRS in this weather, so the drivers will only have their battery. Of course, everybody else has that battery too, and if everybody's using it in more or less the same place, passing becomes very difficult. Nick Gishin out front. Therefore sets the first purple of the evening. Levy continuing to make up places. Last time we checked he was in P5. He's now got past Quibus up into P4. Let's just bring up the screen that gives us the position changes. There's the confirmation. Levy's made up 8 positions at the start of the race. Shane's made up 4. Those are the 2 drivers with the most positions gained at the start of the race. Most positions lost. Well, I'm trying to see. I think it's Secret. Secret has lost 6 positions at the start of the race, down to P10. Of course, everybody on a set of intermediates. Just in case you didn't see it the first time, there's the possible pit strategies, a 0 stop or a 1 stop. Of course, that will only be true if the weather stays exactly like this and we have no safety cars to the end of the race. Any change in weather will put an end to those predictions. Even a safety car will put an end to those predictions. Nick Gishin from 0 to cool means Panda's lost out. Panda's dropped back. He was in P2. He was splitting the Williams. He's now down in P3 and coming under pressure from a Ferrari. Of course, in these conditions, you can always assume he just ran wide, went off the circuit, something like that, because not only did he lose the position, he's lost a bit of time. He's now 1.1 seconds behind 0 to cool, the man he was defending from not so long ago. Levy sees another position, he sees a podium. I think the Williams out front, they would have only expected to see the Ferraris in their mirrors a little later on in the race. I think if they see them there at the end of lap 3, they're going to get a little bit of a shock. Quibus still doing a solid job in P5. Stoffel in P6, Dan Ritfeld and Ronald P8. I think that is the same as where he started. Shane makes up another position. Last time we checked he was in P10, now he's up to P9. No use of DRS. All you have is your battery and good old slipstream. Just using your battery, using your tow, putting pressure on the car in front, making sure he's using his battery. And if you make him use it for a little too long, he'll find himself defenseless, then you pounce. Nick Gishin, 0 to cool, still out front. Panda, still in P3. He's been able to fend off the attacks of the Ferrari for now, but I'm not sure for how much longer. Ferrari right on the back of that Haas, just 0.3 of a second between the two. Is it just me, or is there less raindrops? I think it's just me. because the camera angle. Just thought for a second, is things starting to dry up? But definitely not. We still see a lot of raindrops. Still see some spray coming up from the tires. Of course, if things do begin to drive up, or rather dry up, things become a little bit complicated. All of a sudden this start to finish race isn't just a start to finish race. You can't just utilize that strategy you came up with at the start of the race. You need to think, when do I pit? When do I go to slicks? Is it too early? And you definitely don't want to leave it too late. Panda in P3, same position he holds in the Drivers' Championship. Position he will hold for season 11. Going to be able to hold on to that. Mercedes-Benz of Ronald, the only Mercedes-Benz here this evening. Pushed the P10, get in there. He was at the rear of the field, now up into P11, so he's made up a few places. Shane, did he go in for a pit stop? He must have gone in for a pit stop. Yes, he has, the only man in the field to have gone in for a pit stop. Still a set of intermediates, so I can only imagine it was for damage. Obviously coming through the field in these conditions, things can sometimes get messy. Sometimes you make the mistake, sometimes the other driver makes the mistake, but because of the conditions, got to be that little bit more forgiving. Got to allow that little bit more space. Gishin out front, 0 to cool still in P2. This is a Williams race so far. Panda P3 doing a good job because he's been able to fend off Levy all this time. Levy's made up 8 positions since the start of the race. But now he's just sort of settled into P4 for now. Is he going to continue attacking this horse? And for how much longer can Panda hold on to this? Look at that. That's as close as it gets. That's what 1.5 tenths of a second looks like. Ferrari almost going into the back of the horse there. Let's see how close he gets under the brakes. He goes to the inside. There just wasn't enough space. Stays behind the horse for now. Fantastic driving, of course. With the use of DRS, it's so difficult for the driver in front to defend for a prolonged period of time. But in the rain, DRS gets taken away and defensive driving becomes, well, it becomes a specialty again. If you're a good defensive driver, you'll be surprised who you can keep behind you. Of course, DRS was introduced to make F1 a little bit more exciting, some more overtakes. F1 never needed DRS in the past, but that was because the cars were a lot smaller, they were a lot lighter, which means there was a lot more space on the circuit. Now with the current cars, you have to put gimmicks into the cars to improve the racing. Of course, they're not as bad as the gimmicks you'll see in Formula E. Gishin 1 second ahead of his teammate, so he hasn't exactly run away with things. Of course, there's no sort of tyre advantage at the start of this race. Of course, in a normal race, some drivers will be on soft, some will be on hard, some will be thinking of pitting early, some will be thinking of going late. Everybody in this race basically in exactly the same situation. With the exception of Shane and Arno Koos, I think those drivers have made pit stops. I think Arno Koos may have made multiple. Just have a look at that. In fact, he's made none. So I think Arno Host may be ghosting at the rear of the field because there's confirmation. Thanks for that. Zero to Cool drives through the RB, so that's why Arno Host is a minute behind the rest of the field. He hasn't been in control of that car for what I assume is the duration of the race. Shane just goes over for the fastest lap of the race so far, 1:38.2. You wouldn't say it because the fastest man out on track is right at the rear of the field, with the exception of the ghost car of Arno Ghost. Using all of the racetrack, going wide in the rain. Still surprises me how brave some of the drivers are over the curves in the rain. Did see the Williams just get slightly out of shape there. It's lost the 10th. Gap was a second. It's now down to 9/10. So his teammate is able to match his pace lap after lap. That gap remaining at a second. Williams not exactly challenging each other. I think a double podium would probably do them very nicely in the Constructors' Championship. Let's have a look at that Team Championship. We haven't looked at that at all. Ferrari, of course, right on top, 332 points. Nobody's going to take that away from them. Williams, on the other hand, 109 points. They could still pass Alpine. They could still pass Aston Martin, so they could turn a 6th place into a 4th place. Of course, if you finish P1 and 2, as well as get the fastest lap, that's a maximum points haul of, I think it's 44 points on the night. So you can still change things in this championship, flip things around if you're able to bring this sort of result home. Unfortunately for the Williams, it's only lap 8 of 26 and there's a long way to go. Mission followed by Zero to Cool. Nothing's changed at the front. Panda did hold that P2 briefly at the start of the race, split the two Williams. Then I think he made some sort of a mistake. Speaking of a mistake, the Williams made a mistake. I was going to say Panda's getting close, but look at the Ferrari. The Ferrari wants in. Panda's trying to catch up to the Williams, and Lebby, well, he's messing with his plans. He's trying to catch the Williams, and now all of a sudden he's got to defend. He's got a Ferrari going alongside him. How much longer can he defend like this? Lebby throwing everything at it. The one thing he will have on his side is both of those cars, as I check in live time, have exactly the same battery power. So nobody has the advantage on battery in that battle just yet. And somehow, even though the Haas and Ferrari are battling through the corners and going side by side, they're somehow catching the Williams. That was a big slide from the Haas. Wouldn't be surprised if the Ferrari was able to. I think he still holds on to it, but that was a big slide. A lot of momentum was lost. Actually had a little bit of a gap on the Ferrari. Now the Ferrari's right on his gearbox once again. We saw he was getting awfully close to the Williams. Now he's fallen 1.3 seconds back, so that was that one little slide, that one little mistake. Probably just getting on the throttle a touch too early, and the car wasn't too happy about it. Luckily for him, he was able to catch the car. We've seen incidents like that go very badly. Suddenly it's the end of your race. Quick reactions, keep Panda in the race, keep Panda in a potential podium spot. Levy's gone down to P5, so as he also had an incident, he has not come into the pit, so I presume there's no damage. Of course, if we don't see it, we don't know what happened. It could have been an incident just a bump. We don't see any retirements or anybody else falling down the field, so I presume he could have just run wide, left the circuit. The field's relatively close together there in the midfield, so if you leave the circuit even for a little bit, you could lose 2 or 3 positions. So Levy was fighting for a podium, now he's down in P5, needs to do some work before he can fight for a podium again. Shane sets the fastest lap and it disappears from our screens immediately because Get In There gets a 3-second penalty and now gets a 10-second penalty. So I think what happened there was he probably got a 3-second penalty just before he went into the pits and then got a 10-second penalty on the pit line. So we went from having no one with penalties to having Fuster 13 seconds worth of penalties in the matter of 1 corner. One of those ghosting at the back. 2 Williams out front. Panda still doing a good job. He had to fight off Levy for a long time. Eventually Levy has fallen back in the field so he can have a bit of a breather, but as I say, he can have a bit of a breather. You'll see the gap is only 0.4 of a second back to the Aston Martin. Now of course everybody's got the same tyres. In a normal race we'd be talking about maybe the drivers on the softs will be starting to feel the effects of the tyres falling off now at lap 10. But because everyone's on inters, everyone started on those inters, everyone's pretty much in the same place, with the exception of Shane. Shane obviously made a pit stop, so his tyres will be, well, not that much newer, but they'll probably be 3 or 4 laps newer than the rest of the field. Conditions still remain the same. Grievous also just getting a bit of a slide, and now Levy taking advantage of that slide, but he's on the wrong side, he's on the outside. Grievous is going to be able to go. Yes, he does, he defends it. Make sure he uses all of the racetrack so the Ferrari can't come back at him. Now he runs wide. And Levy doesn't need a second invitation, or does he? Well, Max Verstappen vibes all over again. This isn't the corner you want to challenge into. And Levy maybe just getting a few flash memories of that Verstappen accident, just tucking in behind the Aston Martin for now. Knows there's still time, knows he's got the pace. Needs to apply the pressure. Now the Williams out front. They trading places. I think they're trading places. Thought we might not see the Williams fight at all, but in fact they are trading places. And what's that? What has that done? It's brought Panda right into this race again. Look at the gaps at the front. Got just 0.8 of a second covering the top 3 cars. That's why I said I didn't think we'd see these Williams battle each other too much. They'd probably like to clear the field. Every time they do get into a bit of a tussle, the field comes right back at them. Not a lot of big gaps in the field, so drivers have been able to match each other in the rain. In the midfield, Stoffel, Dan Ritfeld, Ronald, 6, 7 and 8, all running close together. At the front, will Panda try and split those Williams once again? Remember, he did split them at the race start, and he held that position for a little while. Before Williams turned it into a 1-2, and ever since they did, they've held that 1-2. Panda's gotten close on a few occasions, just haven't seen him attack the Williams just yet. 3-second time penalty for Panda. I think that was that curb he just ran over. It didn't even look that bad. Sometimes it looks really bad and they don't get a penalty. Sometimes it looks a bit iffy and they get a penalty. So Panda, 3 seconds worth of penalties. If the field were to remain this close at the end of the race, 3 seconds is a lot of seconds. That would put him down all the way in P7, I think. If if you do have penalties, it's very important to open up these gaps if you plan on holding on to your position. And of course, if you do have penalties and we have any sort of safety car at the end, well, your race may be done. Comment section going quiet. That means everybody's watching the racing, everybody's put the keyboards down. Of course, if you're enjoying the racing, if you want to see the return of DRS to this channel on a Thursday night for season 12, of course leave a like on the video. We'll be back. I just don't know when, but as soon as I do, I'll let you know. But for now, I believe we have SKR returning on Sunday night at 6 PM with a new season from them. And of course SAFRL, they got underway a few weeks ago. And we also have the League v League on a Tuesday night. Thursday might be quiet for a week or two, but I do assure you DRS will return. Support in the comment section for Panda. But Panda, he was doing such a fantastic job, now he's just given himself a headache. See, he's still in P3, that would be optimal position, but if you've got 3 seconds worth of penalties, and literally 3 cars right behind you within half a second, you know you're going to lose 3 positions right there. It's got to be able to clear those cars. Keep on wanting to call it a DRS train, but it's not a DRS train. There's no DRS. The cars just staying so close together, nobody able to break the field. Even the Williams that have been quite dominant at the front, they have been matched by the field. Don't know if they're just making mistakes every few laps and falling back, but they haven't really been able to extend that gap. I think the largest the gap was Nick Gishin was 2 seconds ahead of the man in 3rd place. So they haven't been able to run away from the field. The field has stayed relatively close. Levy made up so many positions at the start of the race. Got himself up into P4, couldn't get past Panda, eventually fell down to P5, got passed by Quibus. We saw him attacking Quibus not so long ago. Now Quibus is a little ways up the road, so maybe he made another mistake. Maybe stays in P5 for now. Such a promising start to the race. He would have loved to have just kept that run going, get himself up into the top 3, got very close. Then something didn't go according to plan, fell down the order to P5, couldn't get past Quibus. Now he's just fallen behind him a little. As for the other Ferrari, season 11 champion, he's down in P10, picking up just the 1 point for his efforts. I think he's also got the fastest lap, so it would be 2 points. There's still a long way to go. Will this weather change? Will it stay the same? Of course, that might be the biggest factor in changing this race and throwing it on its head, is if it were to dry up. There's all sorts of questions need to be answered. When do you pit? If you pit too early, come out onto a track that is not ready for slicks, you either have some very slow lap times at the start, or you simply crash. Getting that transition from wet to dry is so important to get on the tire at the right time. But of course, if things stay like this, it'll probably just be the one stop for most of the field. Second set of inters and off you go. And of course, if you are somehow able to make a set of intermediates last the full race distance, it's perfectly legal to do so. Of course, the use 2 compounds only applies to dry races. The moment wet weather is involved, you can technically make no pit stops. Of course, we saw that the other night, and it was in League v League, where we saw a bunch of cars that decided not to make a pit stop. That's right, it was League v League round 1 in Monte Carlo. Some drivers came into the pits expecting the rest of the field to pit, and then they just found themselves stuck in P5, P6 in the midfield, when a podium was definitely on the cards. We're riding with the McLaren of Fuster, the only McLaren here tonight, currently outside the points. Said they couldn't break away. The Williams now starting to pull away. Nick Gishin has built a gap on his teammate of 1.1 seconds. Zero to Cool has built a gap of 1.8 seconds down to Panda, so the field is starting to spread. As for Panda, he'd be wishing it was spreading the other way. The cars ahead are getting a little too far ahead, and the cars behind, they just won't go away. And another slide from the Haas. Every time that happens, it's going to put him at risk. And he hasn't just lost one position, has he? He's lost two positions. Curvis up into P3, Levy up into P4. So the Aston Martin and the Ferrari taking advantage of that slide. And all of a sudden, Panda, who's been holding on to that podium position for how long? Of course, at the start of the race, he was in P2, fell down to P3 and defended it for all it's worth. We just saw carbon fiber flying off that Ferrari. I believe it was the Ferrari. We'll see. We'll get a better look at the Ferrari when it comes through now. It is indeed missing an end plate on the left-hand side. All depends on Levy. Does he still feel that car is drivable? If he doesn't, he's going to have to dive into the pits. It's lap 17 of 26. Just bring up your pit stop screen. As you can see, almost nobody has made a pit stop. Get in there, made a pit stop. He has since DNF'd. One stop now, Dan Ritfeld. One stop for Shane. Rest of the field yet to pit. One thing I wish we had was any data on these drivers' tyre status. Love to see if somebody is thinking of taking it right to the end. Will the Williams pit? Will they just stay out? Ferrari of Levy, well, he'll be hoping for something, anything that can just flip things in his advantage. He's currently in P4. He's putting pressure on Curvis, looking for P3. Those Williams are starting to get a little bit too far up the road, so he's going to want to make this overtake, get himself onto the podium. But of course, he's got that damage. Car's not going to feel ideal. In some places it'll feel okay, in other places it'll feel like a tractor. You won't be able to turn. You won't get the grip you expect. And even if you're just losing a tenth or two off your usual pace, you gradually start to fall back. But not Levy. Levy's struggling. Rather than struggling, he's battling side by side with Curvis. He did try and take that podium position away for a moment. Just didn't work out. Couldn't get the car stopped. Stays behind Curvis for now, but that is just a sign to me, the commentator, and everybody watching, that he's not slowing down because of that end plate. The end plate is not having any effect on the car, is it? Is it just the camera angle? Does that car have an end plate? I don't think it does. Can we get a better camera angle? No, I don't think it's got an end plate on that Ferrari, so somehow he's able to keep the pace. That's very impressive when you throw in a damaged front wing. Might still be able to get past Curvis. Don't know if he's going to have enough in him to catch up to the Williams. Of course, the car is slightly damaged. Probably not running like he'd like to. Probably having to be a little bit more cautious in the corners. And in a section like Magus and Beckett's, where you need all the downforce you have on the car, any little piece that's missing does have an effect. Gishin from 0 to cool, then Curvis. Levy still in P4. Got to P4 so quickly, but he has at no point in the race broken into the podium. So he's still trying to get into P3. think I said Q3. Too many races. On a post, still ghosting. Must have disconnected on the formation lap and then just never got back into the lobby, because he appears to have been ghosting for the duration of the race. Dan Ritfeld now with the fastest lap of the race. I think these are the drivers that have just been into the pits and put on fresh intermediates. Oh goodness. We've got two drivers in the field on the dry tyre. Is it a bit too early? I still see raindrops. Stoffel's on the medium. Secret's on the soft. Of course the soft should be the tyre that is a little bit easier to get temperature into. But when there's still raindrops falling, is there visible spray? I think there is still a little bit of spray on those wheels. So is it too early? Don't see anyone else in the field doing that. Kishin out front. They'll all be waiting for that notice at the top of their screen saying DRS enabled. That is confirmation that the track is dry. Raindrops definitely look less. There's no standing water. And we still have 6 laps to go in this race. So the track could evolve right at the end. 10-second penalty for Zero to Cool. That's not what he would have wanted. This would have probably been a crucial pit stop for his race. Now he's just added 10 seconds onto his race time. That's going to make things very difficult. Purvis into the pits. Now all the cars. You can actually see the water dripping off the tyres there on as he exits the garage. So there's definitely still rain. Briefly there with an Alpine. Where's that Alpine? There it is. I think the raindrops have officially disappeared. And the track went from wet to, well, it looks pretty bone dry at this stage. So some very quick track evolution, and it's going to mix this race up. Remember, Zero to Cool, he was in P2 for a majority of his race, just behind his teammate. He's come into the pits, put on a set of softs. Thought he'd roll the dice before his teammate did. But unfortunately for him, that 10-second penalty, even if he does get the undercut, that could be what decides his race. Panda, of course, with a penalty, but he is in P3 for now. Riding with Levy. Said he got up the order really quickly, but he hadn't touched the podium. He's now on that podium. He's in P2. Surely we're going to see more cars respond. We have half the field on dry tyres, half the field on intermediate tyres. Going to be interesting. When does the leader respond? He responds now. Nick Gishin into the pits. Surely, soft set of tyres. Does he get it slowed down? Yes, he does. Doesn't make the mistake his teammate did. Levy's going to go around and take the lead of the race. Now, is this the wrong call? How much longer does he want to stay out there on inters? Of course, if you come out on slicks and it's a little too early, you're going to be losing a lot of time. The guys on inters are still going to be faster. But if you stay on those inters for a little too long, it's going to become quite apparent very quickly. Once the track is dry, those dry tires will come alive. They'll suddenly get up to temperature. They'll give these drivers grip they haven't felt at any stage in this race. And of course the lap times are going to come significantly down. Lap 21 of 26, we're still riding with Levy because we want to see what he's going to do. That is the old pits complex to your right hand side. In fact, it was still used by MotoGP until just a few years ago. The new complex on the main straight was only used by F1. All other categories of racing here in Silverstone would use the old pits. I think with the exception of the World Endurance Series, they also use the F1 pits. But now everyone uses the F1 pits. Levy from Panda from Zero to Cool. Zero to Cool will be ruining that penalty. He could have been in such a strong position now. Of course, 19 seconds between himself and the drivers ahead. Levy chooses to come into the pits. He's going to come out very, very close behind Zero to Cool. That gap was 19 seconds. Now I wonder if Levy is going to... Did he change the wing? Did he change the wing on the car? Because that would have extended the time in the pits. He has not changed the wing. So he's going to come out with that end plate broken. He's driving a broken car better than I can drive a perfect car. Comes out just behind. Oh goodness, we didn't even see that happen. When did that happen? We didn't see that happen. Secret and Dan Ritfeld, they've DNF'd at the same time. That suggests there was an incident at the rear of the field, and we've got a very, very late safety car. See now, where is Panda? Panda appears to be all on his own. He'd love to be a lot closer to the pit entry at this stage. He's going to come in, get rid of those intermediate tyres. Of course, he's got the 3-second penalty. Everyone with a penalty next to their name is not going to be happy about this safety car situation so late on in the race. Of course, this will bring the field together. This will cancel out any gaps that were there. We saw how many positions he can make up at the start. Levy gave us that example. So even if you're rather far down the order at this restart, you could still potentially go on to pick up a podium. So much can happen at this restart. Some drivers are going to come into the pits. I think it's just the leader. Everybody else is on the soft tyre already. This means that potentially, I don't think they're going to get around fast enough. I think Panda's going to come out of the pits in the lead of the race, and he will be the leader at the restart. And the driver behind him, well, now I'm just confused. I think Levy has been passed by Zero. Well, they keep on switching positions. What's going on? Levy up into P2. Zero to Cool has made a pit stop. Nick Gishin. Everything just trading places. So many pit stops under the safety car. Everything looking a little bit muddled up. I think some of the drivers went in, put a set of mediums. Then the safety car came out and they said, well, on better thought, I'm going to go in again, put on a set of softs. That's why the entire field now, brand new set of softs. You can see with the exception of Nick Gishin and Ronald, they went in and put their softs about 2 and 3 laps ago. Everybody else on a brand new set. I don't think those 2 or 3 laps are going to count for much because some of them have been under safety car. And those tyres haven't properly got up to temperature because the first few laps would have still been a damp circuit. So I think everybody's going to have relatively the same amount of grip at the start of the race, at the restart of the race. But the queue still very, very spread out. So sometimes the safety car might leave 1 or 2 cars behind. I think that's usually if the safety car has done 3 laps, then it'll just leave you behind. But the queue has not yet formed. Still some cars quite far back. Drivers will be hoping for this restart sooner than later. Every lap you spend behind the safety car is a lap you're not able to change your race position. You're not able to fight. Just have to sit there patiently, weave around, keep your tyres up to temperature. Make sure they're prepared for turn 1 at the restart. Sometimes you just catch yourself napping, and at the restart your tyres are ice cold, the brakes are ice cold. You're heading into turn 1 with some very enthusiastic drivers behind you. Somebody's just peeled off into the pits there on the right hand side. That was the ghost car of Arno Coast, only going onto the slick tyre now. So do not put your trust in AI. That AI not only slow on track, but also very slow to respond. If your AI even drives for you for a lap or two, it could destroy your race. In fact, the other day we saw somebody drop out of the lobby, the AI took over and retired on his behalf, just pulled off the circuit and said, well, I've had enough of that. Panda in the lead of the race, behind the safety car. I'm sure he'd love it if... In fact, he wouldn't. I was going to say he'd love it if they could finish behind safety car, but that would be disastrous. Because he's got a 3-second penalty, and then the next 6 cars behind him have no penalty to speak of. For some reason on F124 in spectator mode, sometimes we don't always get that notification of safety car in this lap. You can usually tell if the safety car starts flashing violently in the top left hand side of your screen. You'll then see the safety car pull off into the distance, and Panda will take the responsibility of leading the way till the start finish line. Of course, the leader decides when to go, and there can be no overtakes until that start finish line. Fortunately, here in Silverstone, it's not an extremely long run to that line. I've seen drivers make a mistake on the restart, do an overtake, get drive-throughs and all sorts of things. It's the last thing you want at this stage. We're almost done, lap 24 of 26. Now imagine this was a 100% race, and you'd be halfway. Of course, over on the Monday Night League, they have mixed up the calendar a bit, so they have 50% and 100%. We did 100% on Monday, and it was quite a marathon for the drivers and the commentator. Panda said he would assume the responsibility when the safety car went into the pits, and he's going to decide when to go. He hasn't gone yet. He's backing up that field. Of course, no one can go till he goes, and there can be no overtakes till the start finish line. Cars are very close together. I think Levy, well, he's got experience at good starts. Surely he's going to try something in these opening few corners. Panda into turn 1, leads out of turn 1, so not too much action into turn 1. We just had a Williams running wide. That was Nick Gishen. Has it cost him a position? Well, it's allowed a Mercedes to pull alongside him. He's held on to the position though for now. That Mercedes was trying to pass one Williams. Now all of a sudden he's got another Williams trying to pass him. Stoffel in P6, then Shane. He's made up a few positions at that restart. He'll probably be grateful for that restart. Of course, he's got no penalties next to his name. Just needs to keep that clean for another 2 laps. Might still find improvement. For Panda, be a little bit heartbreaking, leading the race, but knowing he won't stay there. Now Levy picks up a penalty of his own. I didn't see an additional one for Panda, so I presume they're on 3 seconds apiece. There's confirmation. Whoever has a drive-through there at the rear of the field. So now P1, P2, both the 3-second penalties. That means those two would drop down to P6 and 7. And your potential podium at this stage would be Ronald, Stoffel and Zero to Cool. And there's been a spin. There's been a spin. I think that wasn't just a spin. That wasn't just a driver error. I think there was contact. And that was a Williams, the Williams of Zero to Cool, or was it Nick Gishen? Either way, both Williams looking at a 1-2 at one stage in this race. Now down in P5 and P8. That second Williams has come into the pits to... Who was on the drive-through? It was Kurbis. Kurbis came in for his drive-through. So he's at the rear of the field in P9. Of course, everyone who finishes will get a point. Only 10 drivers remain from the 3 that started. We lost one pretty early on, and then we lost the other 2 simultaneously, which suggests they made contact. Panda still leads, Levy still P2. crucially for these top two, they're not able to get away from the field, and those penalties are going to rob them from a fantastic race result. Further down the field, where's the second Ferrari? The second Ferrari's in P6. It's currently just off the podium positions. If he can get past the Williams ahead of him now, Levy into the lead of the race for the first time. Such a quick driver. Can't believe I'm saying it's the first time, but he only got to lead it for a very short part of the race circuit. Panda comes back at him immediately. Lap 26 at 26. He will be the first one over the line, but he's not going to be able to hold on to that victory. Ronald for the season closer of season 11. Don't know if he was expecting that. But Ronald takes the victory. Shane gets driver of the day. And I have no idea what the results are. So we're going to wait for the official results because all the penalties need to play out. Let's go to that results screen. Let's just have to mute the game. There we go. So Ronald takes the victory right at the end. He didn't get the fastest lap though. The fastest lap went to the man in P2. That was Stoffel. Also great result for him at the end. Really paid off. Safety car at the end and no penalties. Zerotkul in P3. Looked like a top 2 finisher for so long in this race. Then Shane, he started down the order, finished P4, got driver of the day. We have Panda in P5, he could have won this race. Levy in P6, also a man who could have won this race. Nick Gishin in P7, he led for a long time. Fuster P8, Kurbis P9, he was up in P3 at a stage. Arne Ghost P10, and he was your final finisher. Retirements from Secret, from Dan Ritfeld, and from Get In There. And quick correction, Arne Ghost did not finish the race. His ghost car drove for the entire duration of that race. So of course now we will just allow a minute or two to see if anybody does collect up in the cool down room, want to have a bit of a chat about the season. Of course, you're more than welcome to join, even if you're not in the top 3. Just want to talk about your season. You can join the cool down room. You can have a short chat before we end off the stream and officially end off the season. As things appear right now, I don't think anybody's going to be joining us in the comms box this evening. But I want to thank everyone who's joined me over the past few Thursday nights, over the last 12 weeks. I've seen a lot of names coming back every week, and it's great to see. I've even seen supporters of other leagues just to come and watch this league, even when their particular driver isn't driving. So it's great to see. And I really hope to see you all back for season 12. Of course, as we get information, as we're fed information for season 12, it will all be broadcast on this channel. We'll give you updates of when DRS is returning. But until they return, of course, we'll be back on Sunday night with the return of SKR. We'll be back on Monday for another round of SAFRL. And then, of course, Tuesday night, round 2 of League versus League. So thank you to everyone who's still watching. If you haven't left a like on the video, please do. If it's your first visit to the channel, remember to subscribe. And I will speak to you all again on Sunday evening. Until then, cheers.
Engines roaring loud, heartbeats on the rise. On NFR, see the sparks in our eyes. Racing through the night, chasing every turn. On NFR, adrenaline we burn. Pit stops and fast cars, it's a wild ride. NFR, in our veins we can't hide. NFR, feel the rush. seems to take the lead. On NFR's lane, every second counts. NFR, the thrill always mounts. NFR, feel the rush, feel the speed. Formula One dreams, we take the lead. On NFR, we're flying high. Under the lights, we touch the sky. You will do NFR, feel the speed, the speed. You will do NFR.
Engines roar so loud, speed demons crowd. Heartbeats race so wild, lions on the field unfiled. DRS takes the lead, NFR brings the speed. Thursday nights with the crew, every race like something new.
Engines roar, lights flash, speeding through in a dash. Drivers with nerves of steel, thrills you can't conceal. Thursday nights rev high, 7:30 watch time fly. DRS lead on screen, NFR taking the scene. Fast lane fever, feel the thrill. Crowds are cheering, can't sit still. Race is tight, the drama real. On NFR, the magic's real. Rubber burns on the track. Pressure's on, no turning back. Tensions rise with every lap. Gotta win, no room for gap. DRS, battle fierce, through the chaos and the gears. Thursday night, the place to be. Tune to NFR and see. Fast lane fever, feel the thrill. Crowds are cheering, can't sit still. The race is tight, the drama real. On NFR, the magic's real. DRS, battle fierce, through the chaos and the gears. Thursday night, the place to be. Tune to NFR and see. Fast lane fever, feel the thrill. Crowds are cheering, can't sit still. The race is tight, the drama real. On NFR, the magic's real. The magic's real. On magic's real. The magic's real. NFR, it's time to go. Feel the speed, let it flow. Racing hearts, watch them glow. Turn it up, start the show. NFR, feel the heat. Fast and fierce, never beat. Engines roar, can't stay off seat. Catch the thrill, it's so sweet. NFR, NFR, drama Round the track like a shooting star. Feel the rush, NFR. Lap by lap, watch them spin. Go, victory's close. Who will win? In our heads, the engine's din. NFR, let's begin. NFR, lights are green. Zooming fast, slick machine. Every twist, every scene. Catch the action on your screen. NFR, yeah. NFR, yeah. Drama high, stars afar. Round the track like a shooting star. Feel the rush, NFR. Lap by lap, watch them spin. Go, victory's close. Who will win? In our heads, the engine's din. NFR, let's begin.
Engines scream down the track. Future speeds won't look back. Tires burn, hearts attack. 2024 ain't slack. Mountains of metal fly by. Crimson flags touch the sky. Champions reign, gonna die. Gripping the wheel we try. Just drive the speeds alive. Just drive in the fire we dive. Just drive the thrill, survive. Just drive. Grit and sweat fuel the race. Nerves of steel, ain't no grace. Monaco to endless chase. Life and death embrace. Mountains of metal fly by. Crimson flags touch the sky. Champions reign, gonna die. Gripping the wheel we try. Just drive the speeds alive. Just drive in the fire we dive. Just drive the thrill, survive. Just drive. Grit and sweat fuel the race. Nerves of steel, ain't no grace. Monaco to endless chase. Life and death embrace. Cameras flash, fierce delight. Track lights scorch through the night. Chasing dreams, ain't no fight. In this speed we take flight. Just drive the speeds alive. Just drive in the fire we dive. Just drive the thrill, survive. Just drive. Just drive. Just drive. Just drive. Just drive. Just drive.